Everyone have their food, everyone ready to get started? So I think with that, we're going to open the work session in the Planning and Zoning Board.
As is our custom, while everyone is eating, I do some talking and update you all about things that happened at City Commission that were previously on your agenda, and I got quite a few to talk about because it's been a couple months since we had a work session. So let me tick through that list and kind of give you an update of where some things are at the city. If you remember just last month, the Phil Keene condo there, the 6-unit one there on 125 South Interlochen, that had the different architecture, and went to the City Commission at the last meeting. And as always, there's some consternation about contemporary modern architecture, but nonetheless, it was approved just as per your recommendation. So they are proceeding ahead, as I understand it, working towards building permit. So it looks like that project is clicking along. The Jewett Clinic that was on our agenda twice, once for the rezoning for the parking lot in Minnesota, and then the second time for the ambulatory surgical building there on Orange and Oak. That building part went to City Commission and was approved. Jewett has closed on the residential properties on Minnesota where the parking is going to be. So they're proceeding ahead. I understand that they are about 6 weeks away from getting the plans complete to begin the building permit process. So they have their zoning approvals and they are moving forward. We'll see something in a couple months happening over there. The First Green Bank taking over that corner of Minnesota and Orlando. That also, after your positive recommendation, went to City Commission. It was approved. They did close on the property on Minnesota. In fact, they closed on both properties. When that project is going to happen, no one ever really knows, because you have the FDIC branch approval process, which is kind of an unknown. You know, it took Chase Bank 14 months to go through that on the Borders property, and the TD Bank across the street, which submitted for building permit, and we're like, oh boy, they're ready to go. Now they tell us they'll probably be a year in that process of going through the federal bureaucracy to get the branch approved. So I don't know, maybe sometime before we see work and activity happening there, given that track record, but at least they went through City Commission and are proceeding. You also will remember the David Weekley townhomes, the plat we did there on Lyman and a little bit back on Comstock, and that was approved by the City Commission. So there's no variances at all, and they did close on the property. They've been in to see George and everybody in the building department to review plans and make sure before they start drawing construction plans they got everything right, setbacks, etc. And so that one is moving forward as well. Lakeside Winter Park, out at the old Adventist properties there, the office building and the old motel there at the end of Morris on Lake Killarney. That did also go for the final CU, since we've had a work session, went to City Commission, got approved. Chuckwheel Unicorp has closed on the property, so they own it. So the Trader Joe's is signed up, as you've read, and they are out there now taking some last things out of the building before they start demolition. So that one is moving forward as well. The Winter Park Hospital parking garage. All these things are moving forward. Now we go, brakes on. As you know, they came into P&Z with 5-story, 6-level parking garage. My understanding when we started this process was that they were entitled to a parking garage since it was in the master plan, as long as it met the dimensional limitations of office zoning. But they are developed at the City Commission what I'll call dimensional angst about the height of it being so close to the street. So as people looked further, not necessarily at the plan, but at the cover page of the plan, the picture on the cover showed a three-story, 4-level. And so there continued to be angst amongst some of the city commissioners about the height. Not whether they were entitled to a garage or not, but the height of it, given the proximity that it has to the street, 10 feet behind the street. So, and of course we have the added dynamic of the mayor not being able to vote and still needing 3 votes for an approval, which changes the whole voting dynamic. So Florida Hospital has withdrawn the request. They realize that they got a message that what you saw is not going to have votes for success, and they're weighing the options of 3 levels, 3 stories, 4 levels, or trying for 4 stories, 5 levels, which would be 1 less than what you saw. And they're doing height studies with other buildings, etc. So I'm really not sure what is happening there. I don't think anything's happening with the City Commission before September. And so that's one that's not moving forward at the moment, but it's not, they're going to do something. So the other one that's had a bit of interest also was the combination of what you saw at P&Z, which was the rezoning of the Bowl America, or the new women's softball field, and what the Parks and Rec Board saw for the redo of MLK Park. On the piece that you saw, probably in hindsight, I should have showed you the whole thing instead of not including what went to the Parks Board, instead of just a piece. But in terms of what you saw in the women's softball field, well, that was all predicated on building the new Rollins lacrosse field, reorganizing the 3 youth fields, reorganizing and creating some more parking, new restrooms. As it went forward in discussions with the City Commission, there was disagreement about whether there was enough benefit for the city in using the city parkland. It really didn't relate to what we talked about, which was softball field versus bowling alley, related to you want to use the park, what's the city getting out of it. And as I understand it, the dollars have started to ching-ching upwards for the college to put buy the bowling alley, build a new softball field, build a lacrosse field, field turf, parking, lighting, bathrooms, and then more was desired by some. And so at this point, they have withdrawn that request entirely, both pieces. So it never went forward to be rezoned. And the park use agreement never went forward to the City Commission. I'm not sure where we are. They may be contemplating, but the other option for the college is to take the existing soccer field and widen it to meet the lacrosse dimensions, which they can do just by losing the one row of parallel parking spaces that are on the brick Holt entrance road. And then field turfing that field so it can stand up to the play of both sports. And, you know, there's advantages to the college financially and potentially to the student body of having it right there within walking distance. So that is either in limbo or they're proceeding in that direction. And then the last thing to tell you about, which hasn't been on one of your agendas, but it's out there all around town, so if you haven't heard about it, CNL has a contract to purchase the Mount Vernon. And the contract is contingent on getting zoning approvals and other approvals from the city through the end of this year. They are talking about a major redevelopment of the Mount Vernon property, which would require rezoning to one of our land development zoning districts. They're talking about replacing the Mount Vernon with a new hotel, 120, 125 room business hotel, an Embassy Suites type thing. It's not an Embassy Suites, but something like that. Two quality dinner restaurants, and 200, 240 apartments. Now you're saying, now how does all that fit on the Mount Vernon site? Well, it fits because the other piece is they want to build a parking garage on top of where the Civic Center parking lot is. They're asking the city to partner in that parking garage project. And partner is undefined. So there was a work session with the City Commission at the last meeting with the CNL folks, and basically what the City Commission said to them was, what's in it for the city? I mean, there's a lot of things in it for the city in terms of redevelopment and added taxes and jobs and all that kind of thing, but what's in it for the city in terms of using our property to get there. And so they have tasked the staff with bringing back to them at the next City Commission on August 12th the deal points, to see whether the deal points are attractive enough to the City Commission for them to agree to let them apply in the first place. So they need the city's approval to apply for a project that is occurring on the city's property. So we will see on August 12th whether this continues on to public hearing, which you know will be controversial. And we will have a good crowd because of the scale of the project and using parkland. Or if they don't agree to do the partnership, then obviously it's a contingent contract and nothing will happen. Or something else will happen at some point different. So if you've heard around town that the Red Fox Lounge is closing, that's what that's all about. That's the big hubbub in the city. So that seems to be the biggest angst in the city, is the Red Fox is closing.
Is there any height variance that's being requested? How high do they want to go on
Probably.
the frontal and on the parking?
They probably, they're not, if they are certain, they're not saying they're certain, because they're saying that they don't have anything firm with the hotel to know the number of rooms, which would affect the stories. They don't know 120, 150. They're also saying they don't have the partnership with the apartment builder and don't know if it's 200 units or 240 and don't know how to fix the height. But more than likely, at least one or another of those buildings will be attempting to pop about 5-story, 55 feet.
Well, if you have typical Hampton Inn or Holiday Inn is 125 rooms, 25 rooms on the floor times 5 stories. With 6, they'll get 25 rooms, 30 rooms. So 5 or 6.
Yeah, I guess obviously it depends on the footprint, how many they can put on each floor, so.
Yes, well, that's true too. So, and I guess another issue on parking is are they just going to give us more parking, or are they going to give us the equivalent amount of dollars that will allow them to develop the property? What's the parking worth in terms of development potential, not just parking spaces? I think that's the big issue.
You hit the nail on the head. That's why the city commission said, what's in it for us? Okay, you're going to replace our 115 spaces, but what's in it for the city?
Right.
Because you're getting the value of our land, and obviously the ability then to put more square footage on your site, because you don't have to do the parking garage over there.
Right.
And there are the benefits of the project, but it's similar to the discussions that they've been having about subsidies to Ravatage. So,
Are you finished? Oh,
Yeah.
Okay, now I've got a question. So, after the meeting on the 12th, where will we be in this? Will we be in a P&Z work session process? Because I'm trying to go back to the litany of emails that came out of PIPA that night in the last P&Z meeting about not looking at the big picture, getting all the information. So, after those deal points are arrived at, will we be part of a work session before all this stuff starts coming down, so we're not in that same kind of position that Peter?
Because we don't want to just be,
Yeah.
we're approving a rezoning of a 3-acre piece of property.
Exactly.
I
Well,
don't
I
want
thought-
that to happen.
Yeah, I mean, I thought Peter's email was directly head on, okay? So now when I hear city commission work session, I'm thinking, well, when will we be part of this so that somewhere down the road, we're going to be trying to, quickly catch up with the whole situation?
I will keep you informed on the deal.
Right.
But city commission isn't looking for your recommendation on the deal.
But I don't think.
Yeah,
that's
we're not
what he's
asking
talking
for,
about.
we're not
Yeah,
asking
we're
for
looking
the
for other-
recommendation. No.
Again, it's a planning area that goes beyond 3 acres. It's just like what I mentioned on the ball field. It's a planning area. We're not just like, we're just looking at that piece of property. How does it affect everything else? You have a new development across the street now.
Right.
You're going to have pedestrian traffic walking across to Trader Joe's. How will we deal with that? We have pedestrian traffic to the Civic Center, to the office building that's being constructed by CNL. We have all these issues now, and then we're going to have like sweaty lacrosse players coming, looking for the Red Fox Lounge.
I think what's happened, because I've done some thinking about this, I think what's happened is you have a very educated and diverse group of members on the P&Z that are not looking at these situations in a very myopic view, okay? So you have 2 things that are needed. One, both from the staff's point of view, we need to see the context of all this stuff that's happening and be provided with the information. Secondly, the applicants are not coming through with showing the contextual information. I think it's probably off the record because I think, Sheila, you made a good comment that night of the meeting, we knew nothing about the pedestrian involvement. So I think you've got 2 situations there happening, and it would be good if you could kind of keep that in mind as the Mount Vernon situation starts, proceeding in that direction.
I think that night, when we made clarification on Mount Vernon, we were looking at the project across the lakeside. So we were initially thinking that maybe the overflow parking from that could possibly happen on city property. Are they taking that into consideration? Are they taking that into consideration in this new garage? Because I think down the road, if Trader Joe's and the rest of that is successful as they are, the parking's going to be premium there, as we know. And we thought about moving the employees over to the Civic Center. I mean, parking in that lot or close to it or with the bank or wherever. But I think that all needs to come into the big picture.
We left that meeting kind of uncomfortable with the parking, however, that we were presented with that kind of Band-Aid approach. And we said, okay, well, then, and we don't know kind of where that's all being worked out, but then if you've got this other situation happening, that further compresses it,
Well, I got the message about, even if it's not exactly what's on the agenda, you want the big picture and all the related information, so.
Well, you know, and I think going back to the same thing, bringing up the hospital again, you know, you brought that up at the last meeting about the total planning process of the hospital. And they backed off on that parking lot because it was in the master plan of 95 or whatever it was, 05. Where are we today, getting back to Pete's comments, on the total master plan of that development?
Well, I think somewhere in this process, projects that are going to generate that kind of public information request, you know, whatever our threshold is, where everybody is blasted with an announcement, somewhere along the line, there needs to at least be one or more P&Z work sessions that prepares us for what's happening versus the night of what we're to respond to and then move on to a recommendation. So I mean, that to me would be just sort of a pragmatic, you know, thing.
You know, a good example is what we're going to discuss today.
Segue, yeah.
What we're going to discuss today is coming in next Tuesday. And that's what you're trying to say is,
Right,
we
right.
want to be prepped before we get.
Exactly,
And,
exactly.
You know, just this is for maybe down the road, but I'd even go to the 50,000-foot view because I'm new and just kind of the observation is there something out there that states how many banks we need in Winter Park? We're about to become a grocery store mecca for North Orlando on 1792. How many restaurants? I mean, has anyone done a plan?
Well, I
around
just
what
saw that
we
Hot Olives
need?
is no longer there
Right.
anymore. I mean,
We're gonna get
I
another
think you're
bank.
gonna see
But that
restaurants.
location tends to kill every single restaurant that's gone into that particular location.
Oh, it's
guys.
host,
Yeah, but-
it's jinx.
but the other thing is
It's
it's
bad
bad.
karma. I don't know what it is.
I think you're right. Well, number one, as a libertarian kind of a guy, I don't think it's government's duty to tell you how many banks you have or restaurants, but I think the market takes
we
care of
can't.
that. And I think the market is gonna take care of that. I don't think you're gonna see as many
Yeah,
restaurants.
But Ross has got, but if I look at it from a planner point of view, I don't like things, okay? From that standpoint, okay,
I'm
because,
retired.
okay, because banks don't encourage walkability and pedestrian activity. They encourage us to be in our car, to be deposit, withdraw, in and out, and it's all
Well, look at
encouraging more driving.
the first green bank that came to us. You heard the president say, we don't expect to have customers in our lobby. We expect almost everything to be done online.
Right.
I mean, and that's well, it's a big change from what banking was years ago, when you want everybody in the lobby, and now they don't. So
Right.
he just wants a building, in my mind, he wants a building so he can say it's a Winter Park location, and if a customer comes in, it comes in, but they're not looking for customers to come in.
Can I just, this is a great discussion. Can we move this to the end because we've got several guests here for this presentation, and let's do that. And then we can, I think this is great. And
We-
there's a
This is a
lot-
good segue.
Come back to
Anything
it.
else, Evan?
Come back to it.